They want us to think that we're an insignificant speck of dust, but let me tell you, we are so much more than dust in the wind.
At least 4 billion useless eaters will be eliminated by the year 2050.
I'm still waiting for somebody to show me gas pressure without a container.
I personally don't believe anything they say, right down to the God they claim they worship.
None of the math adds up.
You could stack up all their math books, all their science books, and even put all their degrees stacked up on top of that, and you still wouldn't be high enough to see the curvature.
This is exactly why grounding is so important.
We see too far.
We're just regular people who know we're being lied to. We're tired of it.
The bottom line is, there's only one choice left, and that's to dismantle this whole thing from the top down. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Phone Booth Podcast. We are here with, man, I don't think needs any introduction if you ever watch our podcast, but we are here with allegedly Dave Murphy. How's it going, man?
All good, all good. That was an awesome opening sequence. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, right on.
Quite like that.
Everything in-house. Bill did the music, Death did the editing of the video. That's how we like to keep it.
Yeah, man, that was good. I wanted to answer a few of those questions you were
So before we start, why don't you tell everybody who doesn't know where they can find you? And I normally say and what you talk about, but that would take up the whole podcast if you just list everything you've done. So give people a general idea.
Right. Well, yeah, I've got a website, allegedlydave.com. It's I haven't really updated it very much lately, but I've been concentrating on doing some videos and doing talks and stuff. So my YouTube channel is dmurphy25, but you can find me on all the others at if you put allegedly Dave in, because YouTube is very busily taking down my videos, left, right, and center. So
Still to this day, huh?
I don't doubt it.
Oh man, they're bad about that, or at least demonetizing it and making and burying it on all the searches and all that. Things are harder and harder to find on there.
Well, I've never monetized anything
Right.
I've done, so they've never had that control over me. But yes, they are burying my stuff, and yes, they are making sure that I think my subscriber count hasn't changed for something like 8 years. So,
Right.
That's weird how
right.
that happens.
yeah, funny. Yeah.
So I think a good place to start with everyone, which was something huge for me, is can you tell your awakening story of what first made you look into things differently? Right.
Well, I was a complete muggle in the Matrix, back in, I guess, 2001. And I ended up, I was at 9/11. I was almost in 9/11 because I turned down a job in Tower 1, 40th floor of Tower 1 for Lehman Brothers. And literally a month before, and I took a job across the water in Hoboken, right on the waterfront. So when it went down, we all ran out to the pier, and we were watching it from across the water. But it wasn't until about 3 years later that I was helping my daughter with her physics homework, and it was there's a marble on the tabletop. The tabletop's a meter high. How long does it take the marble to hit the floor? And we went through a few problems, and my daughter was like, "I've got it, Dad. I've got it." I said, "Well, not so fast. Let's imagine it was a bowling ball on the World Trade Center." So we worked it all out, and it came out to be about 10 seconds. And I was like, "Oh, hang on a minute. Let me go back and watch the films." And sure enough, the building fell through itself, the path of most resistance, at the same speed as a bowling ball through empty air. So I realized that can't have happened. So Yeah, I thought I was the only one in the world who knew there was something wrong with 9/11. And then, so I went online and I found all these people in tiny little corners of the internet going, 9/11 was an inside job, you know. So I joined that throng, and it's been like filling in a jigsaw puzzle. So I started off in one corner doing 9/11 pieces, and finding pieces that were leading off to other places and thinking, what's this all about? And that led me to finding out about the New World Order. And then that led me to the monetary system, and then the legal system, and then the healthcare system. And then literally all these systems that we build our lives around. And when you start looking into them and scratching beneath the surface, you find they're all rubbish, they're bullshit. They're not what we think they are, and they're all run by the same cast of characters.
People would say, "Oh, he must be a grifter. He must be doing it all for the money and all that." I already know that that's not true, because you left a way better life, to do this.
Yeah,
Financially better.
I was I was a computer programmer on Wall Street, and I had the big house. I had a Ferrari in the driveway. I had a room full of man toys. Yeah, and literally, I had more money than I knew what to do with, essentially. So it looked really good for me at the time when I was a muggle. But I had the experience one day. I was out in my Ferrari, and I pulled up at some traffic lights, and people crossed the road in front of me, and they stood on the side looking at the car. And I sat there and I was like looking forward, then looking at them, and look forward again. I thought, I'm in a car. From where I'm sitting, I can't tell I'm in a Ferrari, really. Did I buy this car for me or for them? And the answer, really, after a long night of the soul, it was like, I bought it for them. I bought that car to let them know how well I'm doing, that sort of thing. Yeah. And then I looked at the big house we got, and we were all rattling around in, 4 of us rattling around in this big house, and realized again, we bought this house to show off, to say, look how affluent we are, that sort of thing. And so that lost its sheen as well. And literally every part of my life I started looking at, including my work that I was really, really proud of. One day I was I was working in New York Stock Exchange, and I was basically building prototypes for a computer system, and there was this woman who had this very fiddly job she had to do. It took her a month to do, and she was doing it month after month after month, and it was like juggling spreadsheets and trying to figure out how to do some stuff. Right. So I came up with a prototype bit of software, right, and literally did her job in about 3 seconds. Literally, and I was so proud. I was like presenting this software. I was like, yeah, I did that. It was me. I did that. And the woman came up after me afterwards and said to me, well, it's lucky that I'm retiring. And I thought, oh, God, this is what I'm doing. I'm not only putting people out of work, I'm actually taking the humanity out of decision making. Yeah. So whereas before you would deal with a human and you'd be able to relate directly to that human and say, I've gone through all this, and can you help me? Blah blah blah. Right now you've got somebody who knows nothing, and they tap information into a computer and go, computer says no, sorry, no argument, no way you can sort of talk to the person. Sorry, the computer said no.
Yeah.
And that's what I was doing. So I couldn't do that anymore.
Ugh. And I feel like that's the way that things are going with this whole AI thing. Everyone wonders how people are going to give up their rights. It's like, well, when it gets to the point where nobody has a job anymore because AI takes over, a lot of the jobs, people will be begging for some sort of solution. And then that's probably when they come in with some bullshit to, hold us down even more.
I feel like
I think
AI has
AI
been running stuff for a long time, and like we're just kind of starting to notice that stuff's going to shit, and it's because stuff has been running by AI.
Oh yeah, certainly it's been deployed for a long time, but I think this phase. Let me step back a second. Before I got a mobile phone, I could remember 12 phone numbers in my head. I can't remember one now. Yeah. Before I got a sat nav, I could navigate around the country without a map and not even worry about it. But now I need a sat nav. Right. What do you think AI is going to do for the young people today?
Ugh.
Is it going to make them smarter, or is it going to make them stupid?
Well, it's already
gonna
making
make 'em
us
stupid.
stupider.
Yeah, brilliant point.
And a lot of them just don't even know how to live without it.
Yeah. This goes back to when teachers were like, you have to learn your long multiplication because you won't always have a calculator with you. Well, now you have all the information right at the tip of your fingers at any second. You don't really need to learn anything according to them. It's crazy.
There's a bigger story to that, though. First of all, I don't think children need education at all. If they want to learn, they'll learn everything they need to learn, and they'll learn what it is they want to learn as well. Okay, we just get in the way of them learning, properly. But I hate that. I've got so many things in my head. I keep I get a new idea, and the old one pops out. Right.
Damn it, AI.
Yeah. Let me just look that up.
I'm just happy that you brought it up. So I can blame AI every time it happens, and not just my old age.
Yeah, that's it.
There is a deeper story behind it, because we have an ability, and this is part of the new talk I'm giving. We have ability to have access to the whole of human history, time and space, etc. But we've been locked out of that ability, and education gets in the way. There was a study commissioned by NASA, as it turns out, to find out where genius comes from. Okay,
Not from there.
This. Not from there, no, because they wanted to hire the geniuses, and they wanted to figure out who, how to spot them. So this guy, I think his name is Land, Dr. Land or something. He sort of studied 5-year-olds and gave them this test, creative intelligence test. How many 5-year-olds, percentage, how many 5-year-olds do you think came out as geniuses?
A lot, probably.
Probably.
Well, what kind of percentage? They had, I think, 1,600 children.
I'm going to guess around 70, mid-70s, only because I know that what I'm supposed to think is garbage by what they tell us, but...
No,
so,
it was 98%.
Wow.
Damn.
Wow.
See, we shorted the kids. You can't short the kids, man.
I'm saying 98% of children age 5 are geniuses, genius level as far as creative thinking is concerned.
And then they go into the school system.
And the other 2%,
he went back at 10 years old. What do you think it was then?
Oh,
at least
half.
Gone.
5%.
30%. 30%.
Oh, wow.
30.
Went back at 15. Yeah, went back at 15. What do you reckon it was then?
5.
Not even.
3.
12%.
12.
Oh.
12%. Now they stopped the study there. They stopped the study there because everyone was getting depressed. But this doctor carried on, and he gave the same test to adults. What do you think adults score?
Oh God! Now I'm going back to the 3 to 5%.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. It's got to be.
2%.
Oh my
So literally, it's a complete reversal, right?
Mhm.
2%.
Yeah. Wow.
2% stupid,
bad.
essentially, or 98% geniuses at 5, right? And 98% idiots at as an adult. And the
But that's-
conclusion is that
Mhm.
school, creates idiocy. Essentially, it strips you of creative thinking.
I will say my nieces and nephews are homeschooled, and they are some of the brightest and most attentive kids ever. Like they're just there. They want to learn. Like you said, they cover whatever they have to keep the state happy, but they read books all day. They're constantly learning because they're not being forced to learn garbage, so they want to learn. It's amazing what it does.
Yeah.
Right.
I never learned anything at school. I realized that as soon as I left school, that's when I started learning stuff.
Yeah.
So did I.
And nobody's ever asked me for my certificates. Nobody's ever asked me for my,
Never.
can I see your O levels or A level? Yeah, they've never
Yeah.
asked me anything.
They'll sure
Yeah.
ask you for the money for that degree, though, if you paid that and that student loan. They'll be
Yeah,
coming
has
for that.
has anybody been asked for their degree? Can I see your degree, please?
No.
No.
No. So it's a
What was your
worthless piece of
GPA?
paper you paid. Worthless piece of paper you paid thousands and thousands of dollars for.
Yep.
Incredible. But that just goes to show the entire system and the way it's designed. It's
It's all a
designed
trick.
specifically for that, and it's only training you to become a member of a working society, a member of slavery, and to pay it back that way. You know, they're always going to get their money no matter what. You know,
And in turn, it keeps the vicious circle going because you've got to pay back those bills, and then you also need a free daycare that is willing to take care of your kids every day and indoctrinate them into this mess.
Yeah.
it's all
Right.
over. It starts all over again.
Yeah, well, what we don't realize, we never realized, was we're in a system where we have been forced into creating the infrastructure for our own destruction. We've been working for what they call the great work, which is essentially our elimination. So I think the 19th century was creating the justifications. So that's when you got all the theories of evolution and all the Malthusian theories and all this. Right? And then the 20th century was about designing or putting together the infrastructure to do it, to control and then wipe us out. And now the 21st century is implementation.
Yeah. Clearly.
And simultaneously in the 20th century, I feel like that's when the dumbing down increased, like exponentially.
Full
In
steam
the
ahead.
90s and like just MTV, and I'm a musician. I am nothing against music, but just that kind of culture, like dance naked, do this, like just started screwing everything up. In especially, I mean, the 80s were bad with drugs and stuff, but you know what I mean. The 90s they started going full force of taking God out of everything.
That too.
Right. Well, there's from my perspective, and again from the perspective of this new talk of mine, what I see as significant is that they've locked us in the left-hand side of our brains. Because, okay, I'm gonna have to step back now.
I'm ready. Step
Zoom
back,
out.
man.
We inhabit two different dimensions at once. Okay.
Now we're getting there.
Now, don't take what I say as absolute truth. It's just my kind of conception of something that's difficult for us to conceive. Right?
Okay.
So
Stuff we don't have words for.
yes, exactly. So we inhabit the third dimension and the fourth dimension simultaneously, or not simultaneously. Well, simultaneously, but our focus switches between the two.
Okay.
Right now, we're focused in the third dimension, right? The left-hand side of your brain is what roots you here and now in this third dimension, okay? All your senses go to your left-hand side of your brain, and right now you're like, okay, I'm in a room, and there's food over there, so that's a good place to go, and this might be dangerous over here, so got to stay away from that. And it tells you, okay, this is the present world here and now. Okay, your right-hand side of your brain isn't rooted here. It's rooted in the fourth dimension, where the whole of time and space, right, is or has happened, will happen, is, it's
Right.
all okay. That's all time and space is an object which is happening all at once, right? And everything, everywhere, every event is right there in an object. And in that fourth dimension, you've got an overview of that object. Okay. So again, I'm gonna have to step back and tell you about dimensions. Okay.
Go for
Do it.
So what is the fourth dimension? Well, again, we can't really conceptualize it because we're third dimension beings, right? But we can extrapolate what that fourth dimension is, because these dimensions are self-similar at every level. Okay. So imagine I've got a cube in front of me. Okay. If I cut that cube in half and look down its cross section, now I'm looking at a flat plane, a square. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So if I take
So good.
if I take that flat plane and then cut that in half and look at its cross section, now I'm looking at a line, right? So if I take that line, cut it in half and look down its cross section, now I'm looking at a point. Okay, so if we go back up, a line is essentially an infinite number of points all merged together in one thing, going off in a direction. Okay. A plane, a flat square plane, is a whole bunch of lines, an infinite number of lines, all merged together into one thing, going off in a different direction. Okay. Now, a cube is a whole bunch of flat planes, an infinite number of flat planes, all merged together in one thing, going off in another direction. So
Correct.
the fourth dimension necessarily has to be, still talking about cubes, a whole infinite number of cubes, right, all merged together into one thing, going off in a different direction. So what do you think that other direction might be?
Oh,
West.
I don't know.
So it's
No,
a
I'm
different
just
way
kidding.
to measure that cube
Right.
that isn't the other three directions.
And what is that?
Well, that would be time, because
okay.
that cube didn't just pop into existence. It had a timeline, to get to the cube, and it has a timeline to its end. So a better way of looking at it would be if you imagine a wooden chair. Okay. Again, that chair didn't pop into existence. So when you interact with that chair, you're interacting with a 3D slice of a four-dimensional object. Okay? Right. So what is that four-dimensional object? So imagine a flash of light. Maybe it came from the sun, right? That light gets absorbed by a leaf, gets turned into wood, as a tree grows. Okay. Somebody cuts down a tree, turns it into lumber. Okay. Somebody has an idea for a chair. So they take that lumber, turn it into a chair, and you interact with that chair maybe for 20 years, but then breaks. So it ends up in a landfill. Okay. Where it breaks down into liquid, right?
Damn.
And then that liquid breaks down into a gas, and maybe that gas ignites and turns back into a flash of light. So that fourth dimensional chair is all of that, all merged together in one thing, all happening at once.
Wow.
Again, we can't conceptualize it, but that's it. And we interact with slices of that object in the third dimension. Yeah? Does that make sense?
Source,
Yeah.
bro. What's your
Yeah.
source?
Right. But here's the thing. The whole of reality is the same thing. Yeah? So the whole of reality are static frames of reality. So like a big diorama, static diorama for every moment. Yeah. and they're going by so quickly that we see it as nice, smooth movement. But literally, it's an infinite number of static frames, right, all merged together into one thing that we call time and space. And so the whole of reality is that object all happening all at once in the fourth dimension, right?
Yeah.
Now we have access to that thing. So every time you imagine, right? Every time you imagine something, now you're using your right brain, okay? You're also using a whole new set of senses. Because let's imagine you're daydreaming, okay? Because that's another route into it. So you're daydreaming, you're looking up at the ceiling, right? Your eyes are pointed at the ceiling, but are you seeing the ceiling?
No, I
No,
know
you're
exactly
not.
what you mean. Yeah.
You're not seeing the ceiling because you're seeing whatever it is you're daydreaming about. Using not your eyes, you're using some other type of eyes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
My grandpa called that
so-
zoning out.
Yes, exactly. Your focus has shifted from the third dimension to the fourth. Okay, and now you can create in the fourth, because an action in the fourth is your imagination. You designing something, you creating something in the fourth dimension is an action. The reaction, because there's always a reaction, the reaction happens here in the third dimension, right? So I had an experience when I was in I think it was 1991. I decided to design a car because I was really into two-seater sports cars, and at the time nobody was making them, right? So I designed a two-seater sports car that I was going to build on a Volkswagen Beetle chassis. Yeah, so I designed this car. I built a 1/5 scale model of it out of plaster and cardboard and stuff, but I modeled this car, right? But then my daughter was born, and it became too expensive a hobby. Yeah, not my words.
I was just gonna say, was that your choice or what?
The boss? The boss.
Yeah. We all know.
The boss. Yes, I was going to say all married men know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the same thing that happened to my 95 318 that was in the driveway for 2 years. I had kids and it disappeared.
So I never got to build my car, but 5 years later, I'm walking down the street in New York. I look down and there's my car. It was a Mazda MX-5. I literally designed that thing 5 years before it appeared. Right?
That's your fault. You put it out there, man. You put it out there in the universe.
It'll be a Akashic record.
Wait.
Somebody else
though.
got it.
Here's the freaky thing, though. Did I invent it, or did I see it in our future?
Right.
Because in the future,
Let's jump in the phone booth and find out.
But the truth is, it existed in the future. So it was my act of creation, just me seeing something in the future, right? And then, so that brings up the question: if I didn't invent it, who did?
Right.
Well, the thing is, it's the Most High, because we're all aspects of the Most High. Right? So it was the Most High who created it.
Yeah.
It's just,
He creates everything.
Yeah, so whoever actually put their name to it, it doesn't matter, because it's, we're all the little I am of the great I am. Yeah. So it's the Most High invented it. It's just it came through one of us.
Before we move on, I want because I feel this is important. I've noticed you always refer to God as Most High. Can you explain why? Because I know there's a reason behind it.
Yeah, because in the Old Testament, there was a group of people called the Masoretes, and they took out the name of the Most High, and they replaced it with all these titles. And most of these titles are names of fallen angels and demons and stuff. So
here we go.
God is actually GAD, which is the angel in the garden that seduced Eve.
Yeah.
And basically spawned Cain, Gad
so-
or Gadriel.
I'm so glad you went there because clearly, with our white faces, we are descendants of Cain, right? No, I'm just messing
well-
with you, but I want to
Well-
hear about that because I know that this is what got me really thinking. So I when I was an atheist, I probably read the Bible more than I do now. New Testament, I need to get better into the Old Testament because I know you don't give much credence to the New Testament, right? Okay,
No.
that's what I thought. And I do want to get into the whole Paleo Hebrew thing later and why that is important. But so I know that when Cain was supposedly kicked out of the Garden of Eden, God marked him with a white face so he wouldn't be killed or whatever, or something like that. I know I'm a little off.
Yep.
But first of all, if you're being kicked out of the Garden of Eden in the very beginning, when supposedly those are the only people, who's going to kill him? There must be other civilizations. And does that literally lead to white people today? And I've heard you talk about it before, but no one's ever directly asked you. So, and I know that those are Nephilim characteristics, which are 6 toes, hairy body, all that too. But just you
Red
tell
hair.
me what you think. Yeah.
Right. Well, well, first of all, those other beings. Well, if you actually read the first verses or the early verses of Genesis, okay, there are two creations of beings. So in Genesis 1:27, it said, "Let us create man or mankind," right? Because that's it's difficult to translate these this original language into English. But let us create mankind in our image and after our likeness. Yeah. And so
Our.
Genesis 1:27, our. Right? The word for God there is Elohim. And remember, all of the names of the Most High were replaced by the Masoretes. So is it talking about the Most High or is it talking about somebody else? Right. Well, when you look up the word Elohim, it's plural for the word El. And you look up the word El, and you find that every Hebrew word has about 8 different meanings. And the way you actually work out what it means is, you don't choose the meaning that you like or you think fits the most. You take all the meanings together and see what it feels like.
Yeah.
So the word El means mighty man, mighty hero, God with a little g, demon. It also means angel, right? Now you and then it says strength and power, right? When you put them all together, it basically says mighty angel worshipped as a god. So essentially a fallen angel, maybe, yeah.
Right.
So if you plug that into the Genesis 1:27, right, the angels created mankind, a kind of man, in the image of themselves. Okay, so who would that be? Well, it so happens that there are a group of beings that are, I believe, still around today called the Neanderthals. So they were pre-Adamites.
I know a
right?
few.
And well, they're still around actually. And then I've got some
They're in my
stories
comments
as well,
every
but-
day.
Every day.
Yup.
Well, actually, there was a female Neanderthal that was captured late 1800s in Georgia, in Russia, and she was really strong, so they put her to work. And some of the villagers would rape her, and most of the offspring would die, but 2 of them survived. And so the children of this Neanderthal called Zana still around today. Her line is still around. And so not only does it say that these Neanderthals still exist, but they are genetically compatible with humans. So anyway,
Wow.
they were the first ones created on day 6, right? And they were told to go forth and multiply, replenish the earth, right? After day 7, at some point after day 7, the Lord God So the Lord of the Angels,
Capital G.
yes,
Yes.
the Lord of the Angels created Adam, and Adam was told to stay in the garden.
Mhm.
So there were two creations,
Okay.
by two different entities, right? So when Cain left, right, he was turned white, and you find that in one of the books the Vatican released in 2019, the Book of Lamech of Cain.
Yeah.
It says that Cain was cursed with leprous whiteness.
Yeah.
So
So
he
am
was
I.
he was he was turned white so that he wouldn't be murdered by the Neanderthals, who were in the image of the fallen angels, right? So
But not only
so
did he
that-
not
that-
get murdered, he went on to build great cities and stuff, right? Supposedly. So
yes. So, but if they were Neanderthals, they didn't have the wherewithal to build cities. It was only until Cain got there that they started building cities, right? So, and again, if you look in the Neanderthals genome, you'll find human DNA in there.
Oh man.
Oh.
I don't like
So-
you anymore.
so yes.
No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. So can we talk while we're on this subject, can we talk about Mount Herman a little bit and the what the number and the old coordinates on the old system? Obviously, you know what I'm talking about. You know it much better than me.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Yeah,
You're like, yeah,
So-
you sound stupid. I'll take it.
yeah. Right. So let me actually step back and give you a
Yep.
bit of the background story that I feel is what happened. So I was trawling around old books and other holy books like the Quran and stuff, and what I was able to piece together was that before the period of the Old Testament, there were other civilizations. Right? There were other civilizations, and it seemed like they were governed by an angel. So there's an angel governing these civilizations.
Yeah.
But the civilizations descended into wickedness, and the Most High just wiped the place clean and started again. And then when Adam was created as the immortal governor of Earth. Okay, he was given immortality, and he was going to govern the Earth, forever. Okay.
Yeah.
The angels were told to worship Adam as you would worship me, right? And
Didn't like
the
that.
previous governor of Earth didn't like it. He said, I was here first. I'm more powerful than this mudman you've created.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, I'm not going
He
to
even
bow
let
down to
Adam
him.
name
right?
all the animals, right? Supposedly. So
Yeah.
they're like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
But this angel was like, this is my job. Stolen my job.
I know, yeah.
This immigrant has stolen. Yeah,
Like your
anyway.
AI program. Like the lady that retired. Good thing I'm retiring. Sorry, guys.
So yeah, he's that's when he rebelled, and the first attack on Adam was that kind of story in the garden. It wasn't about eating apples or anything. It was literally yes, sorry.
Damn it!
You just ruined my whole world.
What did he mean by fruit?
I mean, if they would have called it a cherry, it would have made more sense than calling it an apple.
Yes, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, it's actually in the Book of Enoch.
That's
Nothing.
my favorite book. Yeah.
As long as it wasn't
Yeah,
the
it
start.
actually,
Come on, Bill. We're trying to be
No,
respectful tonight.
No, I'm just trying to loosen it up a little bit.
I think the star fruit is
on.
where the star fruit is actually where the globe came from.
mm.
All right, sorry.
Right, so the first attack on Adam, right, was to take away his immortality, right? So that was the story of the angel in the garden, or the serpent in the garden.
Yeah.
Right? The angel seduced Eve and had sex with her. Now, what I believe happened was as soon as you have an orgasm, it's a release of energy, right? And
It's gone.
obviously some of that energy goes to the child. But as soon as they released that energy, they couldn't be immortal anymore. So Eve went and showed Adam what to do. He lost his immortality. So now plan B for the Most High is, well, now it's not going to be Adam. It's going to be his offspring. Okay.
So wait, just to play devil's advocate for 1 second, does that mean that you think that God created us never to fornicate?
Created Adam not to fornicate.
Okay,
right?
fair enough.
Right, because
I just don't want people
I'll
to
tell
say
you-
you just let him say whatever and didn't ask him. So I want to ask like that. I
Okay,
want to
so-
know if what you think.
I'll tell you that a little bit of evidence, which might not consider evidence, is okay. So I believe that Adam wasn't meant to have children, right? So I think that his foreskin was literally too tight to retract, so that he would never know that thing was there for anything else but urinating.
Yeah,
Right?
exactly. Yeah.
So
Okay.
here's the thing: when I was growing up, when I was a child, my foreskin and my brother's was too tight to retract. Right, so it's painful to retract it. My brother said something to my mum, and they carted him off and gave him a circumcision. I saw
You
that.
never
and I was
spoke
like,
up.
I said,
Yeah.
there's no
Yeah.
way I'm having any sharp knives going near that. So I didn't say anything. Yeah?
I'm not saying shit, dude. No, I'm fine. I'm perfectly fine.
All good.
It's all
We're good in
good
the
down
hood.
there.
We're good.
Yep.
Yes. So here's the thing. This explains why all of the Hebrews were told to circumcise, and circumcision isn't the one the Jewish circumcision that they do now, where they cut
Yeah,
the
with
whole thing off.
Oh,
No,
I thought
it's
you were
called
talking
it's
about
called-
where they suck the blood out of the baby penis. Sorry.
Oh no, that's of course that's another and there's another thing altogether. But literally the real circumcision called a Brit Milah is called, right? If you push the Ish people about it, they'll say, oh yeah, that's what it is. But literally all it
The
is
ish people.
is cutting off the tip of it, so it just exposes the glands, right? So that it's not painful when it retracts. That's all, right?
Okay.
So as I said, I think that's a holdover from Adam, right? So he wasn't meant to have sex, and now his children are supposed to have sex, right?
Yeah.
So he was told circumcise. It makes sense to me, anyway.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So
That's really interesting, but it makes sense. Yeah.
Does I mean, yeah,
so
didn't see it
the
going.
second,
No.
yeah, no.
I didn't either. I didn't either,
So
but it makes sense.
back to how we're white devils
You're
because we got kicked out of the
Right.
Garden of Eden. Yeah.
No, well, no, I'm not saying that
I'm
'cause,
messing with you,
there's
man.
so much there, so much.
If
there.
if you were white, I'd be saying the same thing. That's just how I roll. It's just,
Right. Well, so the second attack, as I said, the plan B is now it's our Adam's offspring. So the second attack is Genesis 6:4. There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of God, the angels, came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children unto them. Yeah. So essentially, 200 angels came down to Mount Hermon, right? And what you were alluding to was when Paris was the prime meridian. Now it's Greenwich now, but when Paris was it, Mount Hermon was 33.33 degrees longitude and 33.33 degrees latitude.
coincidence.
So
Weird.
coincidentally, yeah. So you know where those numbers came from,
I see
right?
that number a lot. It's weird.
Yeah, strange, isn't it? Yeah.
It is.
But Mount Hermon was always known as a forbidden place, right? It was a place of evil. That's where they congregated at first. Today, it's still a forbidden place because right on the top of Mount Hermon, exactly where that happened, there's a UN base right in the middle of nowhere, right on the top of that mountain.
Coincidence.
Imagine that. Imagine that.
Imagine that, yeah. So So
Wow.
I say in one of my talks that we've been told this story over and over and over again, but you don't see it. So when you watch a film and it's by Paramount, right? You see
Yes.
you see the animation of all these stars falling
Point it
from
out to
heaven,
my wife all the time.
right?
Look.
Coming down around the Paramount, Mount Hermon,
Mhm.
and there are 22 stars. And if you look in the Book of Enoch, right, it tells you 22 chiefs of these angels. If you look, it actually says 21, but it doesn't mention the first one, Jaquan, who
The leader.
who led them. So
Yeah.
so 22 chiefs, and it's telling you that story. And other films like City of Angels,
Yes.
telling you the story of a fallen angel,
fallen angel.
falling in love with a woman. Yeah, it's again, it's just so,
They always tell you.
feeding that story. Yeah, they're always telling us.
It's
So
insane.
so essentially, you've got Neanderthals here, you've got man here, you've got Nephilim, so the children of the fallen angels and humans, and right now you've got another set of beings, right? Now this is what I was saying about the science fiction-y story behind these non-player characters.
Yes, thank
Now, I
you.
don't-
NPCs. Let's go. Let's do it.
Hell
NPCs.
yeah.
So I don't know if you came across the phenomenon of incubator babies.
Yes, of course.
Creepy.
Right. So 1893 was a Chicago's World Fair, and in that Chicago's World Fair there was a massive building called the Baby Incubator Building, and they had rows and rows, thousands and thousands of babies in incubators, right? No explanation where these babies came from. No, because they're all premature, so the mothers couldn't have been too far away, but no mothers, right? No explanation, just thousands and thousands of incubator babies,
Incredible.
right? Interestingly, and here's me putting two and two together, 1891, there was a guy called, I believe, Hans Dreich, who invented cloning 2 years earlier. So, putting two and two
Of
together.
course.
Yeah. So, I believe they cloned all these babies, right? And these babies, they went into what was just about starting at the time, Vatican or, church schools. Now, schools, we know now, their only purpose is to get people to obey authority, teach them obey authority. So these children got the obey authority program. Now, I don't know if you know, but for the first 7 years, everything you learn in that first 7 years becomes the reality, your reality, because you can't critically think about any things.
I want to ask you something on this after you're done, but please, I want to get back to something. But go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but there's something about that age
That's all right.
I want to ask you. So go ahead.
Yeah. So, funnily enough, after 7 years old, right, these babies became 7 years old. They were turned out onto the streets, so they became the orphans. So, early 1900s, there were orphans everywhere. Again, no explanation where they came from, right? So, I found out just recently that there are people walking around today who don't have an inner monologue. They don't have that voice in their heads
Insane.
that you can have a conversation with.
That's just
Right. So if I'm listening to one of you explaining something to me, in my head I'll be going like, that's interesting. Oh, I want to connect to that video that I watched last week. Oh, got to remember to ask him this question because you know what? I don't think that's right. I think what's really right is this. Right.
Yes.
So I'd be analyzing in real time what you're saying to me, right? And I'll be able to sort of critically think about what you're saying. Okay. If I didn't have that voice in my head, how would I do that?
You wouldn't be able to.
You couldn't.
Yeah.
You couldn't.
You do. Does someone
Like,
do that?
the closest I could get to it is if I had a piece of paper in front of me, and I'd have to sort of draw out the connections right on that piece of paper. Yeah.
What did CNN say?
Oh.
Let me write that. See?
Yeah.
Oh, and so then these guys, they always turn back to whatever they learned in the first 7 years of their lives, because that's all that they can.
Which
really...
is obey authority.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And they never develop the critical thinking skills because they can't analyze new information.
Wow.
Right? Because if they're creating bodies, they're creating human bodies with this cloning process. Perhaps what they're not creating is that player, the I-ness that's behind you. Yeah, they've got the the I am part of you. Yeah,
Right.
They've got the spirit that allows them to walk around and do stuff, but they don't have that self-reflexive, self-aware I-ness behind them.
That's probably why they don't use their blinkers ever. It's probably what it is.
Right. It's like you go to them and you go, don't take the jab. Look at all these testimonials. Look at this data. Look at this. Look at that. And it just goes. You just get the
four-eyed stare.
But they're giving out.
Posted.
They're giving out cheeseburgers.
Oh,
I
yeah.
posted a video of yours today to hype this episode of. It was off your YouTube, and it was the one where you started talking about how you're not a conspiracy theorist, and then went into the jab, and then cut it off with static. Like, that was so good, man, because that's how it is. Like, we're on our second strike on YouTube because we've had literal doctors on talking about how the jab is not good. So we get strikes on YouTube. So what you said was on point. It was just awesome, man. That video was like, he gets it. He gets it, man. I love it.
Yep.
Yeah. So we got these characters walking around, right, who don't have this I-ness, and I believe they're the useless eaters they're talking about because they created them. Yeah, they were the ones behind creating them. Now,
And
here's the thing:
they're just carpet bombing the whole thing to get rid of them, and
and
collateral
us at the same time.
damage. Who cares? Because we're not in the club, kind of a thing.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's almost like a justification, right? It was all these useless eaters. We know because we created them, right? So yeah,
that's crazy, dude.
But here's the thing, and again, this is the whiteness thing. The whiteness came from these Nephilim. That's all those traits came from these Nephilim. Okay, in 1751, Benjamin Franklin wrote an essay, "Observations on the Increase of Mankind." Okay, and in it he says all of Europe is black. The Swedes are black, the Italians are black, the Spanish are black, all of Asia's black, all of Africa's black. The only white people, and those white people are their bloodline, the only white people are in Saxony in Germany, in England, and the newcomers in America, right? This is 1751, right? So less than 100 years later, right? Or about 100 years later, the orphan trains and the incubator babies happened. There was not a single black orphan. None. Okay.
Wow.
And these orphans, were literally
there's no black kids there.
Or is it?
No.
Yeah.
So these orphans were literally in America. They were taken from New York, and they populated all these empty towns all around America. In England, these orphans, hundreds of thousands of them, were taken and shipped to Australia, to Canada, to South Africa, to all of the Commonwealth countries. The same thing happened in Russia. They were shipped to Siberia, to Eastern Europe, and all that. And all of a sudden, less than 100 years later, there are millions of white people around, right, where there wasn't before. Right. So, and the other thing about white people, a lot of the white people, especially in England, aren't actually white. They're black, and they don't know it. Right. Because England was, or not England, but the British Isles were black. So the Irish were originally black people. So were the Welsh and the Scottish.
I knew it.
Right?
I knew it. There was just something about
That's
it.
why they got that swag.
That's right.
Well, if you look it up, you'll find that there's a racial slur for black people, and it's smokes Irish.
Really?
Smokes Irish.
Smoked Irish.
Smoked Irish.
That makes sense.
Look it
Okay.
up, yeah.
Wow.
All right.
Because again, the Irish were black people. I focused on Irish because I'm a Murphy. Yeah, my
Yeah, I was
family
gonna
name's
say,
Murphy.
man, that's
Yeah.
Right.
come on.
Pretty
And I
hard.
was like,
Allegedly.
how did I get
Allegedly.
that name? I was
Allegedly.
like, how did I get that name? Where did that come from? Right. So I focused on Ireland. So I said Ireland was black. Now, okay, so there was a black king. The last black king that sat on the throne was Charles II. Right. He was known as the Black Boy because he was so dark when he was young. Right.
Pub
so-
over
God,
there,
that's so crazy in today's terms.
There's a famous pub named after that, right?
There's streets named after that. There are pubs all around the country named after that. And when you dig into it, you find it's all about Charles II. Right. So when he was deposed, a white Germanic bloodline. Remember, this bloodline was from Saxony in Germany. Yeah. So this white Germanic bloodline took the throne. And literally they got Oliver Cromwell to attack the Irish and the Scottish. Right. So Oliver Cromwell, he was told to exterminate the Irish. So he basically killed as many Irishmen as he could. And those he didn't kill, they transported to their new colonies in the Caribbean. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So the Irish population went down after Cromwell, went down by 40%. That's essentially all the men gone. So how does a population of black women, continue? Well, what happened was Oliver Cromwell couldn't pay soldiers. So he gave his soldiers lands in Ireland, and those lands came with titles, and they raped the women, right? Because again, if you watched Braveheart, you'll remember prima nocta. Yeah.
Yep.
So they raped the women, and the darker skinned offspring got transported. The lighter skin got to stay. And you do that for 300 years.
Yeah,
right?
there you go.
You get right. So I found the proof.
Easy, dude.
Wow.
I found the proof in the British Library. Right, there's only 2 copies of this book apparently in this country.
Hold on, you have
One of them is
receipts?
in the.
You have receipts for that? Are you sure?
I have.
Because you know
So
that
there's this
down in the comments are like, "We want to see receipts." Here they come.
Right, so there's a book called Whence the Black Irish of Jamaica. Right. Now this is on my website if you go hunting for it. So this book, again, I found it in the British Library, and it's the guy who wrote it, Joseph Williams. He spent some time in Africa, but then he moved to Jamaica, and he was like, these Jamaicans are very different from the Africans I just left, and they've all got Irish names. How did they get these Irish names? So he thought, well, obviously they got them in slavery. So let me look up the land ownership records, right, to see if I can find these names. He couldn't find any of the names, which makes sense because it was an English colony, right? And England was at war with Ireland and Scotland. So there wouldn't be any Irish or Scottish landowners, right? So he went back to England and he looked up Oliver Cromwell's records of the deportees from Ireland. He found all the names. Right? So literally they were deported from Ireland and they came over with their original names intact. Hence, I'm a Murphy. Yeah. So literally, I found a map, an old map, which had, I guess it's Jutland or Denmark now, and it said, Anglin, home of the English. So the English came from, and this part was part Saxony at the time. So the English came from Germany and invaded England or Britain in 440 AD, and they set about taking over the place. So yeah, it's essentially an invasive species. These Nephilim, and they've taken over positions of power. They've taken over, the whole of society and changed the standards of beauty so that, we don't recognize aliens anymore. The alien invasion happened thousands of years ago, right? And we just don't recognize it anymore.
We don't know.
So what do you mean by aliens? Are you talking about space aliens from planets or other worlds?
No, I'm a flat earther, dude, so there's no such thing.
Oh, we're
No,
well
yeah.
aware.
It was a creative segue. It was a creative segue.
Yeah, no. Interdimensional beings, who basically rape their way into our bloodline, and they're continuing to do that now. I mean, one of these bloodlines were known as the name stealers, the Khazarians.
Yes.
They were known
Can we
as the name
please
stealers.
go into this?
you
Goodbye,
go.
YouTube. Let's talk about it. The name stealers. Let's go.
See ya.
Don't care.
I've been holding off on posting anything about this because like 3 weeks, a month ago, I listened to a podcast you were on where you talked about this, and I was like, oh, I want to post about it, but I'm gonna wait because I think we're gonna get him on. So I waited. So please tell us about the name stealers.
Sounds awesome.
Right, so Khazaria, where is Ukraine now, it was almost like the gateway into the Far East. Yeah, so it was like on the trade route. So what would happen was a trader. Sorry,
That's still important.
yeah, it's still important today. But the trade route, the traders would go enter into Khazaria, and they'd be welcomed by somebody from Khazaria. They'd be like, "Oh, come on in, come and have a meal with us. We'll cook you dinner. We'll give you some drink, and have a great time." And they'd sit and they'd pump this guy for information. What are you doing here? Where are you going to see? And they'd find out about the trade they were going to do. Then end up killing the merchant, right? Taking all these goods and going over to China or something, and making the deal, right? So they pretend to be, right? And so they were known as the name stealers. But they continued along the same vein because their method of warfare would be to infiltrate a population, a few at a time, and say, "Hey, we're here, we're friendly, we're here," and they come in a few at a time. They end up getting into positions of power, and more of them come in, and eventually they overwhelm and start killing all the men, right? Rape all the women, and then rename themselves the original population, right? And then they alter history, alter the records so that it seems that they were always there, right?
Hence
And
name stealers.
it's still happening. It's still happening today because, 400 or 500 years ago, an American was a copper-colored man. Now it's a white European. And the same with Australia. Australians 300 years ago were a very black man.
Aboriginals.
Very black people.
Very dark.
Now they're white Europeans. Yeah, so it's the same sort of story happening over and over again.
Not to mention, a lot of the people that call themselves Jewish today are not the same as the people the Khazarians that we're talking about, that came from.
Yeah,
It's
they
very
stole.
different.
They stole the whole thing.
Yeah.
They're imposters, and they stole the name. Yeah.
Yeah.
And right now they're profiting off that name because of a line in the Old Testament that if Israel's blessed, then you'll be blessed.
Yes.
So they're getting money, billions of dollars every year.
That sounds like
out of this.
Sounds like a really good name to steal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like this is a good time to get into the whole Paleo Hebrew thing. Can you explain to us and everybody listening why that's so important and the specifics of it?
Right. Well, I've got a video on my channel called "The Language of Creation," and it goes into detail because Paleo-Hebrew, it turns out, it's the original language of mankind. You were born able to speak this language, but
Yes.
you know, you come out and you're like, "Hey, Mum, I'm here," right?
And they're
In
like, listen.
Paleo-Hebrew. Oh yeah, that's sweet. You're trying to speak. Yeah, and the baby's like, "Oh, she doesn't speak the language.
Yeah.
I guess I'm gonna have to learn her language."
Yes. Oh my God.
Right.
Yeah.
So, so Paleo-Hebrew is an amazing language. It's unlike any of these Western languages that we've been sort of brought up into. It works on the right-hand side of the brain again, right, where our power is. Yeah. And all these Western languages work on the left-hand side, right? So, so as such, these Western languages, they are logical constructions that you have to learn by rote, right? So the words don't mean anything, right? They're just sounds. So the example I give is like river. The word river doesn't mean anything. It's just a sound, right? But we get taught river means moving body of water. River,
Yes.
moving body of water. River, moving body of water. So then we go out into the world and go, "Oh, look, there's a moving body of water. That's a river." Right? Just doesn't mean anything, just a sound.
Yeah, exactly.
Paleo-Hebrew is very different. It's an experiential, intuitive language, right? Shall I do my little demonstration? Because
Yes,
I've done it so many
please
times.
do.
I think
I like it
everybody's heard
though. I
yeah.
like it.
Oh no, please.
We have some younger
Has
flat
every-
earthers and people here who may not have heard it, so
Okay.
I would appreciate it.
Everybody on the
I'm
panel
sure you're
heard it.
tired of it, but
I haven't heard it. I haven't heard it.
Well, you're fired. So no.
It'll be fun.
Okay, so the difference between Paleo-Hebrew and English, right? So
This is for you,
I'm going to
Death. You do it.
describe. Yeah,
Because I've heard it. Yeah.
Death. Death, this is for you. Yeah.
I'm really not scary. I'm really nice.
Oh God, that's so good.
Just don't touch him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm going to describe a film to you in English, and you have to guess what the film is. All right.
All right.
Okay. So a man on the autistic spectrum recounts his life to strangers. What's the film?
Forrest Gump.
Okay. Is that your only guess? Is there anybody else who hasn't done this?
A Beautiful Mind? Is that what that one is?
Okay.
Good Will Hunting.
You're not sure which?
No.
Okay. So is there anybody else who hasn't heard this? Okay. So what's your guess?
Go ahead, Rufus.
Me? Oh, I mean, I was gonna say it just kind of sounds like my life a little bit, but no,
Of course, you have to personalize.
I don't know, man. I mean, Rain Man. I'm just trying to.
Yeah,
think
that's a
Rain
good
Man?
one.
Okay.
That's the one I thought
Right.
of too when I first heard it. That's what I thought of.
That's what I was
Okay.
going.
Rufus,
Right,
me
so,
and you, bro.
Okay. We'll stick with Forrest Gump and Rain Man. Okay.
Hold
I'm
on,
not
Bill.
gonna tell
Bill,
if
you guess. Bill
Well,
didn't guess
I
either.
was actually going to
He
go
said
with Rain
Rain
Man, but
Oh, okay. All right. Sorry. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Right. So I'm not going to tell you if you're right. Okay. But what happened there in the left-hand side of your brain, when you were listening to the words I was saying, right, you were fetching the meanings of those words that you were taught at school, right, and then you were comparing those lists of meanings to a list of films you'd seen, and you were guessing at what it might be. Okay, it was a
Yeah.
guess,
Yeah.
right? So now I'm going to tell you the same film in Paleo-Hebrew, right? So Paleo-Hebrew is a language of pictures, little pictograms that mean something to people. Yeah. So I'm going to use emojis, right? So I'm going to tell you a little string of emojis, right? Here we go.
Mhm.
Man running, a few trees, a park bench, a box of chocolates, a shrimp, and a boat. What's the film?
Forrest Gump.
Forrest Gump.
Forrest Gump, of course.
Hey,
Right,
look,
so-
I'm just smart as shit. That's not your fault.
Death can only read in pictures, though. That's the thing.
Yeah, no,
But
I think
this-
honestly, I've never heard about this, but I feel like I know this. you know,
Right.
because I grew,
Right.
I was let loose on the internet with no guidance, or like my parents didn't care, like
No
so I was
supervision.
no supervision,
Yeah,
and
same.
I was
We were
I
in the
was-
90s, so we definitely didn't have any
Um,
supervision.
and I feel like, you know, like I understand what a good meme is in that kind of thing, like that kind of
that visual language.
yeah. Well, yeah, I guess that's why I like making videos too. So
Mhm.
Well, here's the thing that you'll find that the younger people are actually going back to that. Well, you know, people are actually sending text messages, a string of emojis instead of any words. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
So yes, that the meme culture is also us, you know, thinking in pictures again. Right.
Yeah.
So what happened when I was explaining or describing the pictures this time? Your left-hand side of your brain couldn't get involved because it can't analyze pictures, right? So it was like, you know, out of the picture. And what happened was you were listening to the pictures, imaging them in your mind's eye, and all of a sudden you knew what the film was. There's no guesswork, right?
Right.
You just knew. It was intuitive,
Yeah.
right? Knowing, right?
Yeah.
So that was the language. That's Paleo Hebrew. That's the language that the Old Testament was written in. Every word meant what it meant, couldn't mean anything else.
Hell
right?
yeah.
And you couldn't misinterpret it, right? Just like you
That's-
can't say that pictures could mean Rain Man. No, it can't.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
no,
hear that,
not
guys?
anymore.
That's why the memes are so effective when we're trying to convert people to the truth, you know?
Damn straight.
Yes. And Terence McKenna, I don't know if you've heard of Terence McKenna.
Yes.
Love Terence McKenna.
Terence McKenna, you know, expert in psychoactive drugs, he would say that the weirdness of a trip that you experience is that you start thinking in pictures rather than words, right?
Yeah.
Thoughts become images. Yeah. So that's the weirdness. You start seeing all this stuff because you're now thinking in pictures rather than words.
Right.
Yeah, we've
That
been
might-
programmed.
That might
to
also
learn
be why I like this stuff too.
Could be it. Could be it. We have a little.
I listen to a
Yeah.
lot of Terence McKenna, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Or do a lot of hallucinogens.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, I started a radio station years ago called Awake Radio, and I had a show on it where I was playing. It was an afternoon with Terence, and I would play 3 or 4 hours of Terence McKenna and then talk about it afterwards. But it was just really for me, so I could listen to the whole of everything he ever produced.
Right?
Yeah, so that's just an excuse. Yeah.
Oh man, when I found Terence McKenna, I was like, that changed my whole life. I was like, I can't believe that there were smart people recorded like this for so long.
Yeah.
Oh well, my introduction to Terence McKenna was in 1993. There was a song called "Re-Evolution" by the Shaman, and it was this music with Terence McKenna talking all, about stuff that I had no idea what he was talking about.
I need to hear this. I need to hear this.
Re-Evolution by the Shaman, right?
Okay.
And literally, I had no idea what he was talking about, but I memorized every word of that song. And not only the words, I memorized every intonation of that voice because it's a weird voice. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You know, and to this day, 1993, to this day, I remember every word. You know, if the truth can be told, so to be understood, it will be believed. Yeah, I know every word. And so
Love it.
years later, I'm finding out about stuff, and I hear that voice. I was like, I know that's the voice. And that's why I found out about Terence McKenna. It's just, again, a synchronicity.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Because that's crazy. And, you know, one of our first guests, you know, he actually talked about how he had been visited by interdimensional beings, and they actually communicated with him in a similar way with just strings of pictures. They didn't actually talk to him.
Cheeseburger,
And
right?
yeah.
That was a good
Wow.
one.
Well, I found out about Paleo Hebrew. I had a week magic mushroom tea.
Weak.
Yeah, somebody had five mushrooms. I said, "Oh, this isn't going to do anything, so I'll just make a little tea and see what happens." So I had this mushroom tea. I saw some wavy lines, and maybe the flower of life appeared on a blank wall. But I started seeing this writing scrolling across the bottom of my vision, right? And I was like, "Wow, this is weird."
Breaking news.
I was trying to hold on to one of the characters so I could see if it was a real language. But when I came out of it, it was like I couldn't remember any of them. But then 5 years later, while I'm researching the Old Testament, I'm watching a video and I see the writing. I'm like, that's it. And it turned out to be Paleo-Hebrew. And it was exactly what I needed to find right at that moment.
Wow.
Crazy how stuff like that happens.
On a scavenger hunt, and I'm being helped. With clues every now and again. It's been amazing.
One of the people in the chat says Dave debunked gravitational waves proven by LHC arguments years ago. It helped me learn relativity is fraudulent. Thank you. That was Mr. Xavier.
Right, that was quite funny as well.
Mr. Xavier is our boy. That dude's awesome. Love him.
Was that was when you were debating the college students or whatever like that? Yeah. Oh
yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
Great one. If you guys ever get a chance to see that video, it's awesome. Is anybody else but Dave have something? He's just like, he just like it was him for three astrophysicists. He's just whooping them. It was good.
That video and the what is it, Rice versus Connolly video? Is that what it is, or am I off? Of you just keep repeating the same thing to the cops.
Oh yeah,
yeah. That was so good. I was like, yes, this is awesome. So I guess that's a good way to get into the whole. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say this life is a game, right? Yeah. It's a game, right? If you know that you're playing a game and you've got an inkling of the rules, you can just enjoy playing, right? The Rice versus Conley thing, the police were there to try and drag somebody away. They wanted to grab somebody. They don't send 4 coppers out just to talk to you. Yeah. So, but if you don't get worried about it, remember it's a game, right? And you know some of the rules, right? Then you can just play. And I just, Rice versus Conley, 1966. Yeah. So it's good fun.
So in your
he just kept repeating it to the cops over and over again because that case is about like that you don't have to engage the police or whatever. You know better than I do, but it was just like, man, that's so good. That's so good.
I've seen better. There was a video of a couple of guys. They're sitting there, and the police are coming up to them, so they start talking about cheeseburgers. So you had that Whopper double Swiss, and the coppers are trying to engage with them, and they're just talking about cheeseburgers.
Yeah,
and the coppers wander away.
I did see that recently. Yeah, and they were getting angry, and they just finally
getting angry. But
I believe
just that's all you got to do. Just ignore them, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, life can become like a really fun thing if you once you do realize that it is just a game, and but in your opinion, there's got to be more to it. Like, what is the point of all of this, do you think?
Well, the book of Second Esdras that was taken out of the Old Testament actually tells you what the whole point of this is. All right, we're being tested. Well, so this is a test. So, and it's a very simple test, right? Everyone's got an opportunity to pass it. And the test is basically, what path are you going to walk on? Right? So, unlike what the Christians say, you weren't born of the original sin. You get the opportunity, the choice, every moment of every day, whether you're going to sin or not. Right? Now, if you're sinning inadvertently, like you were born in a society which is utterly wicked. Yeah, and all sins that look like they're all right. Everyone can do it. It's okay. Go ahead. Right. If you're doing this inadvertently, right, then you're not really sinning. You don't know you're doing it. Yeah. But eventually you'll figure out, this isn't right. And as soon as you realize that, right, now it's a choice. If you carry on doing what you're doing, then you're doing it consciously, right? You've got to make that choice to go, no, I can't do this anymore. I'm going this way now. Yeah. And that's the game, you get incarnated down here with no knowledge of who or what you are. You've got the 10 Commandments written right here. Right? Everyone's got them. Everyone knows what's right and wrong. Right.
Yep.
And then the
There's
game
not
starts.
enough time, man. There's not enough time.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
But then the game starts. Off you go. How are you going to live your life? That's a test. That's a game.
What about the NPCs? And do you need a soul in order?
It's a good question.
I
Can
believe
you give us
so, because the NPCs are man-made essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So there are only a certain number of players here, and if you're a player or not,
Right.
you know it, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Fair enough.
So one thing I wanted to ask you, we don't have to go too much into it, but one thing that fascinated me was about the once you pass age 8 and you're not a master anymore, that whole thing with the common law and all that. Can you explain that a little bit?
Right. Yeah. So they put together this system that overlays what we call law, and law is law is already written here. You don't have to be told. Right? It's don't cause harm, injury, or loss to anybody. Don't lie to people. That we know these things.
Inherent.
But they've created this system that the legal system that lies over the top of it, and we look at that rather than the actual law these days.
Yes.
But part of how they've trapped us in it is what they call the legal name fraud. So when you were born, your parents basically informed on you, and a birth certificate was created, and that birth certificate is evidence of something called a person. Right? So you're not a person. You are, you're a living man or woman. Right? A person is a fictional entity. It's also synonymous with a corporation. Right? So, it came about with what they call the Cester KV Act of 1666. 1666.
Strange.
Yeah, strange. Yeah. So, what they did in England, they created this bit of legislation in French, so the English wouldn't know what was in it. Yeah. And in it said, because of the Great Fire of London and the Black Death, the plague, they didn't know who was, there was lots of people dying, so they didn't know who was alive and dead. So this act declared everybody dead. Right? So they're saying everyone's dead, right? And so we're going to administer everybody's share of the country, right? But you know what? You could, if you can present yourself by the age of 7, to the government, and you can regain your share of the country. But they didn't put any provision for how to do that, and it was in French, so nobody knew about it anyway, right? So nobody knows that they could present themselves by the age of 7 to say they're alive, right? So this birth certificate is evidence of something called a person, right? Which think of it as a playing piece, like the Scotty dog or the car in the game of Monopoly. Yeah. So to play this game of commerce and buying and selling and financial business, right? In order to play, you need a playing piece. You can't stand on the Monopoly board yourself and walk around it. You need a piece to play it. So your straw man, as it's known as, your person, is what plays the game, right? And as soon as you accept, that you will be that person.
I feel that.
Sorry?
Yeah.
All right. So as soon as you accept to be that person, then they can do whatever they like with you. because your status is one step below the creator. Right, so above you is the creator. Right, below, just underneath the creator is a sovereign men and women. Right, so every man, woman, and child is at that level. There are no sneaky Rothschilds or Gateses or whoever above you. Yeah, they're all at the same level as you. Right, below us is government. We collectively created government. Right, so government cannot impose anything on us because we're above government. Okay, but government creates all these fictional entities underneath them. Right, person, taxpayer, resident, occupier, driver. Yeah, all these fictional entities. Right, but they come under government. Right. The trick is to get you to admit to being one of these things under government. As soon as you do, now you become under government. Right? So if you admit that you're a driver, you give up your natural right to travel, right, and accept the benefit privilege of something called a driver. And that comes with taxes, fees, insurances, rules and regulations. And if you break any of their rules, now they can punish you. They can't punish you if you're in your sovereign capacity because you're above them. But you have to lower yourself to, to be one of these fictional entities. And that's a trick. They will get you to admit to being one of these fictional entities before they can do anything to you. Yeah. So, if you get stopped by the police, the first thing they will say is, license registration, please. Well, as soon as you give them the license, now you're admitting you're a driver. Yeah, it's simple as that. So now they can punish you. Yeah. So yeah, that's a legal name fraud essentially.
And so, is there any way that you, like, after age 7, that you can go back and get back above, or you're just
well? Here's the thing. There was no, in any contract, there has to be certain things. There has to be, full disclosure, equal terms and conditions, equal consideration, lawful terms and conditions, and signatures, manifestation of intent, right? So if there aren't those things, then it's not an enforceable contract. So yes, they've got all this stuff on us, they've got the birth certificate, but they haven't got an enforceable contract. So you can be a sovereign just by acting like one. You don't need somebody to proclaim it for you. You just have to start acting like it. Don't ask for permission to do stuff. Only children ask for permission. Yeah. As long as you're not causing harm, injury, or loss to anybody, right? You can do whatever you like, right? You don't need permission from anybody. But as soon as you start asking for permission, well, now you do. Now you come under them. Yeah.
Right.
It's as simple as that.
It's a great point. Yeah, there's really no, is there really a legal process to get out from under that? Or like you said, it's just if we all collectively start saying, no, we're not a part of that, or just ignore them. Is that kind of how it works?
Well, you just said it. There is no legal process to get out of it because legal is their system, right? And you're not meant to get out of their system, right? So, as I said, you have to stand in your sovereign capacity, and you have to act like it. Yeah. Stop begging them for benefits.
Understand? Then you say yes, then you're standing under them. Correct?
Right. Exactly. Right. So stop answering questions. Right. So somebody asks you a question. Right. If I marched up to you and said, "What's your social security number?" would you tell me?
No,
you wouldn't. Right. No. So. A copper coming up to you, a policeman coming up to you and saying, "What's your name? What's your address?" Yeah. Why should you give it to them?
Yeah. Yes. Who are you?
Most people will just go, my name's Dave Murphy, and we've forgotten how to act like sovereigns. right?
Yeah.
You know, answering questions is something a slave does. Yeah, asking questions to answer a question is the way a sovereign acts. So it's in the word ask, as king, asking as king. Yeah,
Yeah.
Wow. Words have
Wow.
meaning. They do.
words have meanings.
Yeah.
That's how they get you. They just dilute the meaning of everything, dude. And they just say, no, this is just what it always is.
Yep.
Well, again, in the language of creation, in my Navigating the Matrix talk, I basically explain how they've created a matrix around us using language and belief on the left-hand side of the brain. Yeah. And that's where we are. We're literally in a matrix that's created out of language and your belief in that language.
Yeah.
Because again, a left-hand brain process is a logical process, right? So if your language is based around logic, you can actually create logical constructions that will stand in place of reality. So you trust the construction and not reality. That's how you can be fooled, with by the television. That's how you can be hypnotized to believe an onion is an apple, right? Because that's about messing around with that language layer, right? So your senses come in, it hits a layer of language, and then that language alters the meaning of those signals, and then it goes to the brain and you get that altered meaning, right?
Yeah.
So language and belief has created an alternate world around you that has no relation to the real world.
That's crazy, man.
Someone in the comments had a question.
I was going to say, I definitely want to get to flat Earth, but go ahead, Bill.
One last
About
question.
Paula Catherine.
Yeah. Not sure if you're seeing these comments, but why and who created this system? Is it part of that test that we were talking about earlier? And who are they?
It's the Nephilim. It's a descendants of the Nephilim who are still around today. Yeah, they hate mankind. Oh no, not mankind. They hate man. Okay, and it goes a bit more. Specific than that. They hate the descendants of Jacob, because the descendants of Jacob represent Adam's bloodline. Okay, because if you remember, I said about Genesis 6, where the angels came down to pollute the bloodline.
Yes.
Yeah, so they mixed with mankind to pollute the bloodline. So the post-flood part of Genesis was the Most High basically trying to sift the bloodlines to get back to the original bloodline of Adam, because Noah was the only one who was clean, right? He's the only one who wasn't corrupted. But Noah's wife was corrupted.
Right? Yes, I was going to say.
Yeah. So then the children were corrupted, right? And a week before the flood, Noah had to find wives for his 3 sons. So the women that he found were corrupted. So the way genetics work, the Most High was basically saying, okay, you've got to marry this person and you've got to marry that person. And oh no, this isn't going to be a chosen one because that's the wrong bloodline. Yeah. So, so literally one line of people was chosen till it got down to Jacob. And now Jacob was clean. Right? He's back to the original bloodline of Adam. So all Jacob's offspring were now clean. So that is the now back to Adam's bloodline. Okay. And this is the bloodline that the Nephilim are trying to destroy. And they're still doing it today. They're targeting this one particular bloodline. Yeah. Targeting this one particular bloodline. Everybody else is collateral damage.
Insanity, dude.
And that's why they want everyone to be asexual. So
they want to destroy the family. Yes, that's
they do.
And you got to remember the fallen angels didn't really have an allegiance to gender either. They chose to take on a male form. They didn't have to, but they did to be able to procreate. Yeah. So whenever their bloodline takes over a population, it always descends into, homosexuality, transgenderism, and all this wickedness.
It's disgusting.
And so, how do how do the reptilians fit into all this? Because I feel people talk about that all the time. And
now, the reptilian, because it's always they sort of conflate the fallen angels with the serpent. If you go back to Genesis, talking about the garden, right? There are two words, right, that sound very similar. Nakash, Nachash and Nagash. Okay, so I always get this the wrong way around, but Nagash I think means serpent, right? Nachash means remember, it has 8 different meanings. Nachash means to adduce an argument, to have sex, to sleep with a woman as an enemy. Yeah. I can't remember the other thing, but it literally tells a story of an angel sleeping with Eve, not out of love, but as an enemy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And adducing an argument. Did the Most High say not to do this? So I think they conflated those two words, and now it became a serpent, not telling the story. Yeah. So this bloodline was also known as the serpent people. The Khazarians were known as the serpent people. So whether they were physically had something to do with serpents and snakes, or they were conflated with snakes because of their behavior and and that.
See, that's why I always
6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
Yeah, right. That's why I always thought it was a metaphor, because of the name stealer thing, like shapeshifter, reptile, name stealer type situation.
That's very similar.
Yeah,
interesting.
So I would feel very remiss if we did not talk to you about flat Earth and how you came to that, because you're clearly a free thinker. You didn't come to it because someone else said, "Hey, here's a YouTube video. Just listen to this." So I want to hear how you came to it, if you don't mind telling us.
Well, it was kind of like that, to be honest.
God damn it.
Somebody showed Dave a YouTube video.
Well,
and then an experiment followed. But yes.
It's like I'm a badass.
Well, back in the day, I don't know if this was automatic, but back in the day when, you just end up watching a stream of videos because it would go from one to another, and so on. I can't remember if it was like that or I just kept clicking on something that was on the side. But I ended up watching this video about, it wasn't about flat Earth. It was about experiments. And one of the experiments was the Bedford Levels experiment.
Yes.
Right. So whoever was talking about it was saying about this experiment, and I started to realize, it's talking about flat Earth. And I was and it's talking about calculation was 8 inches squared. I was a second. That sounds a bit small. Over 6 miles, it was going to be like 25 feet drop. I was like, that makes the Earth really small, doesn't it? So I went off and I checked it. I got AutoCAD and I drew up the Earth on AutoCAD, and I put 2 markers 6 miles apart, and then sort of did the calculation, sort of measured it all out. And sure enough, it was like, wow, okay, I'm sure I've seen things a lot further than that distance. So I went down to a particular beach in a place called, it's gone out of my head now. Went down to a beach, and 12 miles off the beach, Plymouth, is in Plymouth. Oh, that's it.
There you go.
12 miles off the beach is a lighthouse. And before I went there, I figured out that the first 32 feet of that lighthouse should have been missing, hidden behind the physical curvature of the Earth, right? So I went down to the beach with I had a P600 camera. I couldn't afford the 900. Right, so I
We
went down
really
to
don't need the 900 to prove it's flat.
But you sold
No,
your
we don't.
Lambo and you don't have the money to buy it. No.
No, actually, no. So yeah, I went down to the beach. I put the camera right next to the water, right, and zoomed into the lighthouse.
What was the
And not
observation?
only inches. But not only could I not, was I able to see the bottom of the lighthouse where the rocks met the water. The horizon was behind the lighthouse.
Yep.
Which is impossible. The horizon should have been, miles before the lighthouse. If it was a physical curve of the earth, right, it should have been before you got to the lighthouse, but it was way behind the lighthouse. So that was me hooked. I was like, the earth is either much bigger than they're saying it is, which then means there's a lot more problems with the size of continents and stuff, or it's a flat earth. So that's what launched me into it. And I've literally gone all over the world doing experiments and stuff. And it's been
you're a
roller
flat
coaster
earther
as
that
well.
actually does experiments. I don't believe him. I don't believe him.
No.
And anytime you came up with that, it's always refraction. Just so.
No, I've been to Hungary, and we did a laser experiment over Lake Balaton, which was quite exciting. It was like in a speedboat with a laser shooting across the lake, and we're in a speedboat looking for the beam. It's right.
That's awesome.
I went to Albuquerque and did a rising height experiment from a balloon, from a hot air balloon. You know how looking at the horizon rising up with you, and how the ground just goes down. The horizon stays the same, but the ground opens up. So I was actually filming that happening. I did an experiment on Bonneville salt flats. Actually, I'm not supposed to. Sorry,
the salt curves. That's what they call them.
salt curves. Yeah. I'm not sure we're allowed to do this, but we took a BMW onto the salt flats, and we were whizzing.
It's
whizzing
cool.
across
I'm
the
a
salt
conference.
What about cheeseburgers?
But then after we did it, everybody else was behind us, going zipping around the salt flats. But yeah, that was. So I've been doing experiments all over the place, I cannot deny that this is a flat Earth, and I've done so many debates with people. I've asked scientists and what have you. I actually got invited to debate the physics department of Nottingham University, right? Yeah. So they were putting together this big debate, and I was asked, and I was supposed to get a couple of people to debate their physics department, and it was all set. And then they asked me to send them something that I've done before. So I sent them the video of me against a particle physicist, where I ripped that guy's head off, essentially. I sent them that, and all of a sudden they said, "Oh, we're cancelling it. We're not doing it."
I wonder why.
You know what? We probably it's not a good time. It's a bad time.
But you think about it, I mean, there's no way they could do it anyway, because they're the physics department of a university. If the students saw that, a badly educated idiot like me, right, can stand up against their whole physics department, right, and make sense, right, then
why are they just
who's
paying
gonna
you
listen to them after
instead?
that?
Yeah, it's like why?
Who's going to be listening to them? Yeah, no, it's not. Yeah,
never again. No. Oh God, that would have been fun though. It would have been fun. So I have to ask you, because before I heard you say it, it was an inkling I had. I've heard you talk about how fallen angels, fallen stars, stars in Hollywood, that whole thing. What's the deal with that? Can you tell us about that a little bit, or your theory on it, or whatever you think?
Okay, so this was at the end of one of my talks. I threw it in because I was just kind of trying to extrapolate who these fallen angels might be today.
Yeah,
and
we all
just putting some ideas together, because the fallen angels were, according to the book, they were imprisoned in Tartarus for 70 generations, which would mean, depending on what you think a generation is, they were released somewhere between the late 1700s and the early 1900s, which would coincide with the explosion of technology, because the angels were the ones who gave us technology, right? So, as soon as they got released, they carried on giving certain people technology to use against us. So I was trying to think, okay, so if these fallen angels were actually still here, still walking around today, who would they be?
Yeah.
So you just have to look at their character, what they want, what their motivations are, and you can probably guess who they are.
Mm-hmm.
So these fallen angels, the thing they want most of all is to be worshipped, right? So whoever they are, they would crave the worship of the people. So they'd be known by virtually everybody on earth, okay, and loved, and people would idolize them. The other thing is that they're long lived, right? They're immortal, so they would have to have a strategy by which to not draw attention to themselves. So I kind of went back to Highlander. Remember the film Highlander?
Yes.
Conor
In the end, there
McLeod.
can be only one.
Oh yes, I love
Right.
that.
So he developed the strategy of pretending to die and then coming back as his son or something and taking up and carrying on. Okay. So they would have to do some kind of strategy like that to not draw attention to themselves. So my conclusion was that these angels would be who we call the superstars. Right? The celebrities, the idols, the screen idols.
Taylor Swift.
Yeah. Now, to back it up, and go back to the Conor McLeod thing, is that when you look at some of these top superstars, you'll find that they've got a doppelganger or multiple doppelgangers going back in history.
Yeah.
Right.
It's crazy.
Now
Wow.
back in history,
Taylor Swift.
like the 1500s, for instance, if you had a painting done of you, you would have had to be a celebrity.
Yeah.
You had to be somebody, a person of note, to get a painting. Same with the early days of photography, right? You'd have had to be somebody of note to get a portrait taken of you, right? So all these people who have doppelgangers all the way through history are always people of note, of what was the phrase? Men of renown.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So my contention is that maybe these fallen angels, we know them already, because everybody knows who Brad Pitt is, right? And all across the earth, and everyone knows who Keanu Reeves is, right?
Well, you calling me out, bro?
You look at Keanu Reeves, and there's a doppelganger of him in the 1700s and the 1500s.
Yeah.
So I know it's a facetious little thing, but I thought, let's add that in.
I love it.
I like it. Yeah,
Check it out, man. And we have to keep guessing about it. You know what I mean? We got to keep searching, always asking questions, never stop. The moment we stop, we're falling right back into the system. The moment we stand down, we're falling right back into the system. So
I know I said this to you.
As I said, it's a game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is for sure.
Yeah, baby.
In the beginning, before we started streaming, when we were waiting because the times got all messed up, but Literally, so I found Flat Earth, and I think it was maybe a Dubé video I came across first or whatever. But um, for me, I saw that the Earth was flat, but I was having a hard time with the whole creator thing. And then I heard, I'm just going to fanboy here for a second. I heard a podcast with you. I don't even remember which one it was. I listen to so many at this point, but where you were talking about how you were an atheist for a long time and how realizing that there's a creator or that there's a creation brought you to a creator. That literally had a giant impact on my life. And I had become a better person since I heard you say those words. So if you ever feel like what you're doing doesn't have an impact, just know it's had an impact on my life. It's had an impact on my wife's life, on my family's life, because I have become a better person. Bill can attest to this, but if you don't mind explaining, so maybe it will do for someone else what it did for me, how Flat Earth and whatever else brought you to a creator, the Most High, in your words.
Well, thank you for saying that to me, because it's hard. It's hard to see what effect you have in the world on the world, you know.
Yeah.
So thank you for saying that.
I'm just telling you the truth, man.
I'm not
trying to be
your videos.
Literally
one time.
9 years. Yeah, go ahead, Bill. Tell him.
We were supposed to be working, and we're parked out front of the job to go to work, and we're just like, and we're new at the time, but we're seeing all these signs pop up and all this stuff, and the videos were flooding, you know. And we just went on a binge of yours, I think at least like 6-8 hours.
Literally sitting in front of a job, watching you messed up someone's house, bro. That's what I'm saying. But literally, like I don't care how it sounds. You literally had that much of an impact on my life and Bill's life in turn, and all of our family's life. So what you're doing matters. So if you can say anything even close
100%.
to what you said that registered with me, I feel like that would be awesome, and it would make this podcast worth more, you know. No pressure.
Yeah. I can't remember what I said now. So so I was an atheist for 40 years. Didn't want anything to do with religions and Bibles and whatever. Never went to church. Not even. I think I went to Sunday school once. Didn't take, so no. So I had no exposure to it whatsoever. But you know, finding Flat Earth was like the last straw. So when I was looking at urine therapy for what excuse me, when I was looking at urine therapy for one thing, somebody said to me, you know, urine therapy is in the Old Testament, don't you? I was like, is it? So, yeah, I looked it up, and sure enough, there's a reference to it. Then it was somebody said, "Oh, you know, King James was black." I was like, "Is he? No, he isn't." So I did a bit of research, and sure enough, there he was. He was a black guy. And then Flat Earth came along. And, you know, some people were saying, you know, the Old Testament's a flat earth book, don't you? I was like, is it? And again, have a look. Sure enough, it's a flat earth book.
Third time's a charm, man.
Third time's a charm. So, you know, as you say, third time's a charm. If I see something present itself to me 3 times, it's usually an indication I've got to pay some more attention to it. So I ended up, I got a King James 1611. And I read through it 3 times, cover to cover. And I started to realize that, hang on, the New Testament, first of all, didn't fit. It's a whole story building throughout the whole book. And then it just stops and says, okay, forget all that. Now it's all about this guy. Yeah. I was like, no, that doesn't feel right. So I felt I needed to research the Old Testament, and so many things started coming to me. But with a flat Earth, looking at flat Earth, you realize that this has to be a created place. Right? This was intentionally created. It's not, a big bang, nothing exploding and creating all this stuff that is all evolving, and no, it's all that's all rubbish. Yeah, this is a created place, and I said in, I think, one of my videos, it's like, as soon as you realize that, you're essentially seeing the Most High's fingerprints on the dome. Yeah. And
Oh yeah.
And then you realize that there's a reason why they don't want you to know about the Creator, right? Is because if you take away the Creator, then you are a meaningless microbe on a speck of dust in an infinite void with trillions upon trillions of specks of dust, right? There's no plan, there's no purpose to anything. It all came about by accident. Your life is an accident, right? You've got no purpose. There is no purpose to any of this, which means if you believe that, then powerful people down here can give you a purpose, right? They say, well, I've got more money than you, so I'm more important than you, so you do as I say. That's the only way that a small group of people can, dictate to a much larger group of people, right? Yeah. And people will argue with me and say, no, they didn't give us a purpose, but they absolutely did, and it's essentially a bullshit purpose, right? That purpose is get good grades at school, get a good job, buy lots of stuff, buy bigger, faster stuff until you die. That's it. That is the purpose. Yeah. No, that's the purpose they've given us of human life. But when you realize there's a Creator, right? Well, and think about the flat Earth, right? The flat Earth means that this is the universe. This all around, this is the universe, which means that every single one of us is special. Every one of us is unique, right? Every one of us is, means something. We have a purpose, a real purpose. Yeah. Okay. Every life is sacred. So it changes the whole perspective of your life.
It does.
Right? So
it really does.
And yeah, when you realize that you have a purpose, right? I was lucky. Somebody sort of did a little process on me to tell me what my purpose was. Okay, so he got me to lie down on the floor and get comfortable. He said, "Right, I want you to describe an atmospheric place." So I thought of a teepee, a big teepee, fire in the middle, logs around the fire. So he said, describe it to me. So I'm describing it in detail to him. And he interrupts me and he goes, somebody's come in. Who is it? So immediately I had this picture of a friend of mine dressed as an Indian medicine woman. And she came in and she sat opposite me, opposite the fire. And my friend said, ask her whatever you want. So first question was like, what's my purpose? And she said, without missing a beat, she said, to help and inspire by just being you. I thought, I can do that. I know how to be me. Yeah. But I think she gyps me, because I think that's everyone's purpose. Yeah. Because
it's like a fortune cookie.
To help and inspire by being you. Yeah. Every one of us is unique. Every one of us has something unique to bring to bear on this world. Yeah. Only you see through your eyes here and now. So you have a unique perspective on this world, which means you can think of things that nobody else can think of. You can say things that nobody else will ever say. Yeah. You can change the world with just one word. Yeah. You've got that. Awesome. You've got that capability. Yeah. This is why they don't want us to know that you are special, that there is a Creator, and that Creator has given you a purpose, right?
Yep.
And you can fulfill that purpose by just being you. It's easy, But
well said.
if you do
you, boo boo.
You look at this world. This world is trying to make you be like everybody else. They're trying to make you become part of the hive mind, so that you use your power to help them achieve what they want to have. Yeah.
Yeah.
The moment you become you, well, that ripples out. That you change the energy around you, and that ripples out, and you affect people around you. You just have to look at the bystander effect. Yeah, you ever heard of that?
Yeah. Yep. I know what you're talking about.
The bystander effect is if somebody falls over in front of you and is lying on the floor bleeding, right? Most people are going to step over that person or walk round them or ignore them, pretend they don't see them. Yeah.
Right.
Until that one person goes, "Are you all right? Can I help you?" Right? Then everybody now joins in.
Yeah,
because that one person breaking their programming allows everybody else to break their programming. Yeah. That's how you change the world around you. You don't have to go marching and throwing Molotov cocktails or anything, right? You just have to be you, and don't be afraid of being you.
That's literally why we started these Twitter accounts, just to try to push what we believe and hopefully inspire other people to do the same. I know Twitter might be stupid to do that, but I've literally gotten messages from people that have been like, "You showed me flat Earth. Flat Earth stopped me from committing suicide." Like more than one actually of those.
Giving them sort of purpose.
Giving them, realizing that they're not a speck, like you said, they're not nothing, and it changes people's lives. It literally does. So anyone who says this is a negative thing is ridiculous, and anyone who says it's completely like a religious thing is ridiculous, because I was a flat earther before I believed in God, so it wasn't in that direction. It's crazy.
Yeah. No, this again. If you I think a friend of mine gave me a quote. It's now I had the quote while you were talking. Now it's gone again. The opposite of fourth dimension. There it is. The opposite of courage isn't cowardice. It's conformity.
Yes,
that's it.
Nice.
Yeah, it's you being afraid of being you because you're afraid of what other people will think. Yeah. You be you, as you said. You be you.
It's true.
Hell
Dude,
yeah.
you have been an inspiration, a wealth of information, as we already knew.
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I was just telling him, like, I can't believe it's come to this. We've been, Ted and I have been watching you since what, 2016, somewhere around there.
2015.
Oh, wow.
2015, yeah, somewhere around there. Yeah. And then,
Literally.
and here we are talking to the same man that brought us there, and we're allowing other people to see that, you know what I mean, and to experience that. And it's just, dude, thank you.
Yeah, thanks for everything you do, man.
For doing this.
Oh, well, thanks. Just be me.
He's like, "I'm just an English bloke. That's what I'm doing. Just being myself."
That's what I say a lot. I say I'm just some stupid bloke from Basildon. This is where I grew up. So yeah,
I love it. That's awesome. So yeah, man, thank you so much. I mean, you've given us plenty of your time with the whole time mess up thing, and now you've given us 2 hours. We genuinely appreciate it.
Yes.
And if you ever want to come back, obviously the door is always open. If you have anything new you want to talk about or anything, we would greatly appreciate it. But we genuinely thank you for your time, man.
Yeah, thanks.
You're absolutely welcome. It's been great.
And where can everybody go see you real quick? On YouTube. At the beginning,
allegedlydave.com, but you can stick allegedly Dave or at allegedly Dave in YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey, and BitChute, and you'll find all the others. You'll find all the ones that YouTube have deleted. So
yeah, they love doing that.
Nice.
For sure.
Yeah, they do.
All right, gentlemen, it's been fantastic, and once again, thank you, Allegedly Dave. And
yes, thank you so much, man. Yeah, look forward to what you're doing in the future and passing it forward to everyone else, man. We really
and we'll have Rufus send you all the clips or whatever, because we clip it up and put it out and all that, so you can see it or do what you want with it. But it'll be there, and we'll send you the links to YouTube, and Rumble, and all that fun stuff. Thank you so much, man. We appreciate it.
Okay. Party on, dudes.
Party on, dudes.
Much love, man.
Good night, man. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care.
All right.
All right.
Later.
Bye.